It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing another discussion video that was suggested by one of you guys in the Discord community. So if you want to be able to suggest videos for discussion, you can go ahead and join the Discord. Accept the rules with the knife emote at the bottom. But this one is suggested by Rocket in the Discord community, so really appreciate you suggesting this. And this video is from Tatariu. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. How Tatariu would fix, or rather buff, I should say, Legion. And I wanted to actually give my thoughts on it because I do play Legion pretty frequently. Probably not as much as I used to, or even the game as much as I used to. And when I did enjoy a bit of Legion. And I do think that they are very weak. Very weak. And I do think that with some actual changes, which Behavior has apparently stated that they're not going to, they don't have any current plans of actually fixing this character. So it's just, unfortunately, to be expected when it comes down to the changes to Killer, because they seemingly are not interested in trying to actually, buff or change or give any positive, updates to Killers apparently. But in a perfect world where this could actually be the case, we can definitely look at this and take notes. So going off of what we have here, it's a quality of life updates they have here. So it says new Feral Frenzy gains 500 BP after downing a survivor with the 5th slash, which is all right. You know what I mean? So the first two are having to do with blood point gain. The second one is that an audio cue is triggered when the next feral flash will down a survivor. This can be heard map wide and by all players, which is very interesting, and I think it'll help a lot with people understanding how to counter the character and to be able to kind of bring a little bit of fear to this character, because I do think that they are not really, I wouldn't say like not the most like scary character, but I also don't think that they are the most interesting to face. Now, I may not be a fan of audio cues for powers and things like that in the game, but, it needs to be there because people need to be able to understand what's happening. So there's a couple changes. So Feral Frenzy no longer ends while blinded, which is something that does actually happen in the current patch. If they blind you while in Feral Frenzy, it does end. But there was a tech I've seen Tat use where like he would get blinded and then he would then use that to just like M1 them. As he gets blinded, like pretty much right as he gets blinded, it will end and he can swing immediately. And that's very interesting that this is being added into what he would consider a good change, right? So then it also says that Feral Frenzy can be used while blinded. It also says that remove the darken effect during Feral Frenzy cooldown, which I think that would be really nice. It's very annoying to constantly like cancel and then see the screen get really dark for a second and then go back out. It's very annoying and very unnecessary, especially because it's very hard to see where you're going sometimes because of it. Remove the pitch lock during Feral Frenzy cooldown, which is very nice as well. I think that would be just very cool. Remove the miss attack cooldown during Feral Frenzy. Miss attacks during Feral Frenzy now immediately transition into the power's cooldown state, which is also a nice change. I really do think that these are really good changes, and I do think that Tad would be one of the most, I would say, important people to talk to when it comes down to changes to this character, because of the mere fact that there simply isn't a lot that the character has going for them. And I think that in order to be able to make positive change, which I know that this is never going to get added most likely, I mean, Behavior's not really interested in trying to, like I've said, bring positive change to the game for Killers, really. So obviously this will just, be taken with a grain of salt or probably never be heard. But at the end of the day, I do think that this should be added to this character because they are very weak. And I think that if we can try to go in and fix up characters that are just completely weak or just unnecessary to be playing, I mean, like, that's why the pick rates for the high tier killers are just so high. It's like, you play a low tier and you're not really having any fun. If the game is about having fun, most people will have more fun being able to move quickly and do things efficiently than they would be playing a weak killer like Ghostface or even Trapper at this point, and even Skull Merchant. Like, it's just not as fun. for the vast majority. And even unfortunately going against like the most experienced players while playing Legion, it's pretty much non-existent to actually get much value when using the power or anything like that. I just don't think it's very interesting, and I'm not a fan of it. Now there's another part here that has to do with other base kit changes. So one of the things I always hear Tat talk about is the fact that the survivor pools of blood and scratch marks are shown during Feral Frenzy. I do wish that that was also a thing in the game, because it's very hard to keep track of some survivors, especially because everything turns off when you're in Feral Frenzy. So a lot of the time, like, if they're pretty quiet, or if there isn't any sounds, or if they're not injured already, or whatever have you, it can be pretty hard to track them, especially on a map like I've experienced, like on Larry's, where they just turn like 5 different corners, and it's very hard to keep track because the audio is not always the best, and it's very difficult to keep up, especially when starting a Feral Frenzy. You don't have any of the killer instinct, so it would be very helpful for that, to help you start, because usually the start is pretty hard with this character, and it's not really great. So the other change that he wants to pitch here is the Oblivious survivors are no longer immune to killer instinct. I do think that's a pretty nice change. It would allow for some more unique builds and playstyles, because I think currently when it comes down to where Legion's at, I think that we're kind of stuck in this sort of at least for me, I'm just kind of stuck with like the Spirit Fury, Enduring, and just Eerie button constantly. I mean, I don't think there's really much variety to be had, because like the amount of pallets require me to have to break so many. I have to stop and break and stop and break, and it's like I just have to pretty much run the button just so I can get it out of the way and save myself time, because this character is already an M1 killer without frenzy. And in the same way with Kenneki, you have to M1 at the end of the day. Like, you cannot use your power to get a down, so you have to walk up and slash him in this case. So it's kind of annoying, I would say. It's very uninteresting a lot of the time, and I do agree with that. They also say Feral Frenzy power gauge depletion pauses when performing actions, which basically would be very nice. I mean, I think that basically making like I think it's, what is it, Frank's mixtape, I think it is, that you can break stuff and it'll pause the actual power gauge. That should just be base kit. I don't know why that's not a thing. Like, you would think that a power should have more impact. To be honest, I'm really not sure as to why we have not received more quality of life changes like that for characters like Legion. I think that Legion is, in general, like one of the weakest characters in the game, and probably not, maybe I would assume not picked that often either. I don't think they have a lot, in their kit really. To really incentivize people to play them. I know their skins are pretty good, like they have very good cosmetics, so I know that would bring some people in, including myself. I like to mix and match different combinations or other things like that, and kind of stylize my Legion members. But when it comes down to the actual power use itself and in the match, I just don't think that there's a lot going for the power. I don't think there's a lot to learn, or really a lot to use with skill expression in a lot of ways. And adding changes like these will allow for more skill expression, allow for more quality of life changes. I think these are really solid. And it says here, decreases the recharge time of Feral Frenzy to 12. I think that's a great idea. I don't know why a power like this is not shorter. Like 15 seconds is quite a long time. Considering that all you're doing is injuring them once, like that's pretty much it. Like you're gonna have to cancel anyway. And also, I forgot to mention the increased movement speed from 5.2 meters per second to 6 meters per second. Another great change. I gotta say, like, this character needs a lot. You know what I mean? It definitely needs a lot. And what else do we have here? So we also have the duration of frenzy to 6 seconds was 11 seconds, which is interesting. I'm not too sure how that goes. I'm pretty sure that like Tat will probably explain it in the video, which is why I highly recommend watching the video on your own to really hear what Tat has to say and hear the explanation, because I'm just going off of what changes are on paper and just kind of giving my take on it, because I think that as somebody who's played a lot of Legion, I would love these changes. These are great. Like anything for Legion would be great at this point. They're very just bad. I don't understand why these characters can remain so bad for so long. I really don't understand. Um, it's kind of insane. And they also have the removing the stack of, or not removing, we're decreasing the stackable movement speed during Feral Frenzy to 0.2 meters per second was 0.24. So that's not too bad. And it also says here that the miscellaneous changes, it says that the Legion will hear a muffled version of their chase music when not actively chasing a survivor during Feral Frenzy. Interesting. And then also said to remove the single kick animation when action speed bonuses were applied to damaging gens or breaking walls. I think that's a bug. I think that was probably a bug. Because I've actually done that before. I've actually done that before. You guys have probably seen it on stream. I actually like put together a build so I could like do the one kick animation thing. Just for fun, because I just was like, there's not really much to do on this character, so I just kind of slapped it on and see what I could do. And yeah, like if they want to, if behavior decides they want to remove that, I'm not really gonna lose my mind over it. Like it is what it is. A muffled version of their chase music while not actively chasing a survivor during Feral Frenzy is not bad at all, and it's nice. That is very nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump forward to the deep wound changes. So it says that the deep wound bleed out timer can be reduced by 33% from Feral Frenzy attacks. Deep wound bleed out timer can be mended while running, walking, or crouching. Interesting. So they're trying to add, so I guess the idea is because people already hate dealing with deep wound, at least going against Legion and the whole thing about deep wound within, you know, the whole Legion power or whatever, is that it's deep wound. It's very annoying. So the idea is like basically reducing deep wound timer and making deep wound like easier to get rid of and stuff like that will kind of help will, you know, with dealing with that, which is kind of interesting. So it's supposed, so according to the note, it says that with the Legion being better at chaining together hits and catching up to injured targets, deep wound has been tuned to be more forgiving for the survivor and less slowdown heavy, instead promoting more chase-oriented gameplay. The reintroduction of deep wound attack damage may seem risky, however, with survivors being more than able to mend the new status and the reduction of frenzy duration, there's more than enough counterplay for this mechanics to return in a more balanced way than before, which is quite interesting, which I want to read up a little bit on this as well. So it says deep wound bleed out timer no longer pauses when running and instead only pause when mending. The bleed out timer is automatically paused when incapacitated by any means or when suffering from madness 3. So I'm not sure if this is like a rework to deep wound in general or the mere fact that like deep wound from Legion is going to be programmed this way. It's probably explained in the video. Mending progress is reset when the action is interrupted prematurely. Previously saved progress. Okay. Increase blood points gained from mending deep wound to 300. Decrease the time required for survivors to mend deep wound to 8 seconds. So they're making it even shorter than before. And then also remove the ability for survivors to mend each other, which is not bad at all. But overall, I will say I kind of see the vision. I do think that because Legion's supposed to be faster, get their chain hits, which I think getting the chain hits was the most fun aspect of Legion regardless. So if we can make that like more of a focus and make that more interesting, I would want that to be the thing, because you know that's one of the things about Legion that I kind of dislike is like I can't stay in Feral Frenzy and just keep chaining or do what I want to do because I'm always out of juice, out of power every single time I get to the third person or the second person or whatever. Map size is just gigantic, so like it's just annoying that you can't continue to do the thing that you're kind of playing the character for. Like I could just play a different character and just do something else more efficiently and more fun than having to deal with, you know, the constant like recharging and walking everywhere and recharging. Like it can get very annoying. So the fact of the matter is that it simply is just better, you know, at the end of the day. So we also have a couple of add-ons that that Tap wants to kind of switch up here. So we have Cold Dirt getting added in. It says decreases the cooldown duration when frenzy ends by 0.25 seconds. We have Mischief List, which frenzy attacks only replenish 50% of the power gauge, increases the stackable movement speed during Feral Frenzy by 0.1 meters per second. So we have a bit like we're changing the Mischief List to actually be like a meme add-on. And Smiley Face Pin causes the blindness effect while suffering from deep wound. and scratch ruler and etch ruler would be decommissioned. So very interesting ideas, very interesting changes, I have to say. I mean, it's really interesting to kind of see this. The defaced smiley pin also has the oblivious status effect from Suffer from Deep Wound, which is interesting. A new add-on called Hand Wraps says increases the window and palette vaulting speeds during Feral Frenzy by 20%. I like this idea. I wish we had this as an add-on for this character, because of the mere fact that we don't have any perks that actually do that for the character. They used to, I believe, but I think they kind of removed that. I do think there's a lot of things that the game really, had in the past that really could be nice to have in the current day of DVD. Unfortunately, we're just not able to have that. It kind of sucks, to say the least, because at the end of the day, like we have a lot of interesting things that were in the game, and obviously were removed, I think, due to the state of the game at the time. But then obviously having to deal with DVD nowadays, with how overtuned the survivor side has kind of become. It's really crazy to me that the killers are like constantly like kept in a box when it comes down to any strength or power or any unique synergies or perk interactions or anything like that. But yet survivors can have these crazy numbers and stacking bonuses and all these speed boosts and all these kinds of like aura readings and all these kinds of healing speeds. It seems like the Wild West out there. And then you look at character like Legion, and it's like we have the most simple and pretty lackluster power we've ever seen. And unfortunately, like, we have creative people that either Tad or multiple people that working with Tad as well as Tad have put together to create like this interesting rework idea or interesting update to this character, even with unique add-on changes. And to think that this is just a dream, it's not even like we have a possibility or a chance or anything like that at all to really prove that this could really be the case. And it's very sad. I really wish that it was to be like something. And just for those of you that are curious, because I know that some people did not are probably confused as to what do I mean by behavior has stated, or at least somebody has stated from behavior that they have no plans of updating the character. I believe it was Tat that actually posted up the screenshot. So I wanted to go ahead and show you guys the post from Tat himself as well, to just kind of show the screenshot. As you can see, it says some news to share regarding the Legion, and it says right here from Mandy, Legion is definitely not in the immediate plans for a rework or update. That's not saying nothing will change with them, but it won't be anytime soon. There's no current plans for them. So as you can see, it ain't looking too hot for Legion. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. My goodness, like it's not great. But just to preface, right, like this is why I state like this, it's just a dream. Like it really is just a dream. It's just cope. It's just like we're just hoping and praying, like living on a prayer pretty much, of trying to get a change for this character, trying to get something for this character. And it's unlikely we'll actually get it. It's really unlikely that we'll actually get a positive change for this character. It's really sad and unfortunate, but it is kind of what it is at this point. So I am curious to hear your thoughts on the changes being shown here. There's also, I think, a couple more add-on changes that are in the video, as well as Tad explaining, more information about the changes, why he chose these changes, and other things like that. I highly recommend giving it a watch. But I want to hear what you guys think about, basically the topic at hand today. And I will see you guys in the next one. Consider hitting the sub and the like button. And if you really want to support it, you can become a member on YouTube or Patreon, or even subbing on Twitch. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's go ahead and read off our members from Patreon. Pro King 101, YouTube members: Kargan Falcon, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not J-Lo, Evil Peach, Cozy Bozy, Theo Endire, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. And for the Twitch, we have Final Girl Bunny, Leona Art, Zazabu, Evil Blade, Danica, Crow Vader, Cake is a Road, Zeneron, Ginsburg, Mr. Morik, Kevin, Zero Mocker, Ashai Boo, and Gryffindor. Appreciate you guys supporting. Really means a lot. If you want to become a member, you can go ahead and join through Patreon or YouTube members, or even sub on Twitch. See you guys in the next one.